Welcome to the Real Estate Show. From buying to selling and everything in between. Rochester's home for everything real estate. And now, your hosts from the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. It's Anthony Butera and Jason Mancuso.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Estate Show, episode 27. We have Jason and Anthony here. And we were trying to talk about this last week, right? Yeah. We got sidetracked. We want to just talk about kind of an update of what's going on in the Rochester market.
Yeah, current market conditions.
Yeah.
What month is it?
I know, right?
What year is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Middle of August.
Is this still a time where people are selling homes, or do people start slowing down because of school starting?
You know, every agent I think may have the answer may vary.
Yeah.
For us, I kind of feel like it's spring market 2.0, and a lot of people waited. I felt like the spring market was delayed. Mm-hmm. The winter was extended. Spring market was delayed, and now we're catching the next. The next wave of inventory hitting the market. We're going on a lot of listing appointments.
I think it's busy out there. I think to a certain extent, and it's always going to be case by case, property by property.
Sure.
I think there is starting to be an effect of the market leveling a little bit, and the overall craziness, stupidness that we go through. It seems like each spring with the multiple offers and $20,000 over asking price, and you keep losing if you're a buyer and this and that. That's still going to be out there for certain neighborhoods, for certain property types, for certain price points. But I think there's a little bit of a little leveling going on right now. So that if you're listening to this and you're a buyer, if a lot of buyers ended up going back to sitting on the fence just because they were frustrated with the market, with what it was and the process, and keep losing out, and you feel like you're making strong offers and you're getting beat. If you gave up, get back into it now, because now you got an opportunity to not have to, be in a potential bidding war or get a house for, a reasonable rate, quote unquote.
Yeah.
That element I think is back in play, and you can be competitive again and not have to lose your mind.
Yeah, I was trying to think of when we bought our house, when Anthony helped us house. I think 5 years ago now. I don't know what kind of market it was.
It was the tail end of a buyer's market.
Yeah.
We went in and we looked at 3 or 4 houses, and we kind of just we had a house that was pretty cheap and, fixer-upper type of thing.
No concerns of other offers
on
the market for 4 months.
Yeah. And I was just thinking just how my wife is, and even me a little bit, if it was this thing where it's just we're going to house, putting in offers, getting denied, we would have just been devastated.
Yeah, we'd have to get Lily a straight.
Sure. So we were lucky in that sense, but what do you say to people that have had that happen? Were they maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago, they were trying to buy and it just didn't work?
Yeah, a couple things. Like I just said, this could be the opportunity to get back into it and not have a situation where you're beating your head against the wall for the next 2 months and losing out on 5 different homes that you love, just because of that leveling effect. Where listings are starting to sit a little longer. As agents, we're calling on properties, assuming to hear that it's going to be sold, and it's not, and it's available. It's okay, cool, let's get in there, let's see what's what. I think we've talked about this before, but no matter what kind of market you're in, as a buyer, I've said this before, and I say it all the time to my clients and to our team, just make an offer that you're okay with losing. Meaning that if you're in a competitive situation and there's multiple offers, if you don't win, you can sleep at night because you put your best foot forward. You made the strongest offer you wanted to make that you were comfortable with. If you didn't get it, let the other guy have it.
You may have won by losing.
Right, exactly. Because now they may be getting that buyer that won. They may be getting the advice of, hey, you got to just poor advice and a negative situation, thinking forward. And if now you're not in that, you didn't overpay. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And that could be a good thing. So it's just, no matter what, if you run into the multiple offer situation, that's why I tell people every time. It's almost what we can do as realtors is still in overdrive as far as trying to position your offer and make it the most competitive. And it's not always about just the number, but let's talk about other terms to to try to win over that seller and beat out the other offers. But if you do that and you know you're not leaving any money on the table, and that it's like, gosh, I wish I would have came up another 5.
Yeah.
That could have gotten it done. And if you were comfortable with that, and if we're telling you, hey, we're comfortable with it too, because again, we're not, we're going to turn down more deals than we do just because, we run our business like we want you to call us 5 years when you're ready to sell, and we don't want to have a situation where the conversation is, yeah, sorry, you overpaid.
Yeah. So for me, to wrap up on the point you were making, plenty of times in the last, I'll say year, right? The insanity of the seller's market. There's been plenty of occasions where, after educating my sellers, so here's the number, right? Of course, we got to know what the number is so we can start to do a seller's net sheet to see what you're going to end up with, right? What's closing day look like? How much equity are you pulling out of that property? So what are the proceeds? So there's that conversation, and then there's, hey, listen, so this offer here is for $195,000. It's an FHA offer, 3.5% down. They're asking for $5,000 in seller's concessions. It's going to net you $190,000. And there's another offer here that is $185,000. It's a 20% down conventional. And they're not asking for any seller's concessions. Financially, they're very secure. We have a decision to make. Now, if we just based our decision on the offer that is most likely to close, it's going to be the offer for $5,000 less.
Right.
These are more financially stable buyers. If you want to chase the money and add more risk to the deal, let's go with the FHA in hopes that we can get $5,000 more. It appraises knowing, because the bank's going to know that there was seller's concessions, right? So we're crossing our fingers with an appraisal. FHA appraisals are done in a different manner than conventional appraisals. And if I had to bet on which one's going to close and which one's not, I'm going to bet on the one for $5,000 less. So don't discount this offer, right? It's not, there's money and then there's likelihood of closing, because chasing that $5,000 extra after these buyers possibly dragging their feet and then finding out 5 weeks later we have an appraisal problem, right? Mm-hmm. You lost $6,000 in the process. Those buyers that came in with that other good offer, they already found another home, right? So that stuff's happening out there. So the consumers, sellers, buyers, the assumption is that the highest dollar amount is going to win the deal. It is not the case.
And
it's the best terms.
It's tough to look past, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, hey, guy, easy for you to say you're leaving me $5,000 on the table. What the hell, man?
I get it.
Right? So, it's risk reward, just like any business decision is. And, this is an emotional thing, selling or buying a home. But that's where we get involved. It's like, all right, that needs to take a little bit of a back seat. Let's analyze this like we would, essentially a business decision, it's an investment decision.
Sure.
And it's like Anthony said, it's $5,000 more, but we could find out 30 days from now that means nothing, and the offer goes away because it didn't appraise.
Now they're looking now, and not only that appraisal sticks now. So any FHA buyers, if that deal dies, any FHA buyer cannot offer more than that amount because that appraisal sticks. They're going to have to find ways to come out with, if they're willing to come out of pocket. But now the consumer knows what it appraised for, a fair, an actual fair market value. They're saying we're not paying that amount, right? Mm-hmm. Because an appraisal was actually performed. But to circle back to the market in general, I feel like, and I think I made the comment of it's spring market 2.0 because we're fortunate with an abundance of listings right now, and we're continuing to go on plenty of listing appointments. What I think has happened this year compared to other years, are we in April, May of this year? No, we're not hearing the 20 offers, right? 50 showings in a day. We're not hearing that. But with that being said, I think that the news for us, because we're in it every day, we know the market condition. But I think a lot of consumers, when they watch, whether it's News 13 in Rochester or just national trends, right?
Yep.
They're not in the trenches every day. So the news of the seller's market, it really doesn't find them until a friend tells them that, hey, look at, we just had our house listed for $200,000. We ended up getting $225,000.
Right.
It takes a little bit. It takes 6 months for that news to hit the consumers, the sellers in this case, right? And now we're getting sellers that are hearing about people selling. I just found out that Jim next door got $180,000 for his house, and it needs a new roof, and it's chipped cedar. And like, we updated our whole house, and we thought our house was worth 170 at the most. And then we're getting in there and we're saying, we're a 199 listing all day long. And for the first time in my career, these conversations are flipped, right? Typically when we tell them what the suggested list price should be, they're like, huh? No way. That's way too low. Our house is worth way more.
Right.
Now we're catching like, huh?
Really?
Really? Our house is worth that much? Right? So that's opportunity for sellers, right? So if you plan on moving 3 years from now, what if you could sell for $30,000 more right now,
Right.
avoided taxes, found a nice rental for a few years until you wrap up your last 3 years at work before you plan to move to Carolina or Florida, or even into a 55-plus HOA, right? So why delay that? Let's cash out now while the market's strong, because the one thing that we do know, the market is going to shift. It's just when.
Yeah. And the hope is that, I hate to paint a negative picture of, what goes up must come down, because we've had the last 2 years, it's been a potential 10% increase each year. And that's not pricing-wise. And that's not something that this market locally is used to. We're used to onesie twosie type of just steady Eddie market here, and it stays stable. The example is that with the crash from 2008, 10 years ago, we didn't really feel it. We weren't going up, but we didn't take a huge decline.
Yeah.
So now people are out there and seeing the price increase, and part of the logic is, okay, the time is now, because who knows, nobody's got the crystal ball. If we did, then that'd be awesome. But if you're thinking about it, I would do it now. It's not that the market's going to crash. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm becoming more and more of a believer of that. This area, this region in general. Like Buffalo's even hotter than we are.
Inflation, massive inflation.
Yeah, but to go along with that, I think there's also an element of that this region has just been underpriced for so long that it was overdue for a pretty steep incline. But with that said, I think we're still at the peak. So it's like you have an opportunity to get out, if you want to look at that, and cash out at the peak, buy low, sell high type of thing.
Yeah.
This is it.
The logic there, I agree with. But if I were to flip sides on that,
devil's
advocate, I would say you are 100% right, depending on the actual area, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So there's towns where even if you stay in for 5 years and you did pay too much, the values in these areas have continued to go up.
Right.
Seller's market, buyer's market, whatever. Even during a buyer's market, it's still going up. It's just it's at a snail's pace, right? But there are pockets, without disparaging certain towns. I'm not even going to go down the path. There are pockets where they have seen situational inflation, false inflation, right? It's not like
created by this market.
Created by this market where there's, again, it's false value, and the busiest piece of our market has been the 80,000 to 150,000, right? Like that's been the extreme.
Yeah.
So that's where we've seen extreme. If you broke it down to percentage over asking price, forget dollar amount, because we could talk dollar amount all day, but who cares? If it's $25,000 over asking price on a $550,000, it's marginal, right? But when you're talking $20,000 over a home listed for $130,000, right? How does that buyer recoup what they just overpaid for a house, even in this market, is still only worth $130,000?
And that's the example, is, like the 130 example, and you get in at 150 because you're in a bidding war and you really wanted the house and it was nice and it had all these amenities and you didn't have to do anything to it, and you pay 150, you win, it appraises, everything's good.
But there's no there's no revitalization of that area. It's right. It's not because businesses are moving here and the school district is drawing people.
Yeah, and the problem is that 3 years ago that house was 110.
And that's tough, because that's also the price point that first-time home buyers are going for, and then 5 years later, they're going to go sell, and they're going to have zero equity.
That is my next point.
Like I said, we run our business that we'll lose more deals or advise against more deals than we will take them, just because we're telling people that. I mean, I am always going to have the conversation with any client that's buying to say, hey, what's your game plan? Is this a short-term thing, meaning 5-7 years is kind of the average for a first-time home buyer as to when before you make the next move up. Yeah. And if that's the case, I mean, look, you may not like what we're telling you if we're advising against you putting in a high offer for your dream house right now, but we're thinking ahead, because, again, we expect you to call us when you're ready to sell. We don't have the conversation. Hey, one bid at 150.
Yeah.
I can list it
$20 equity.
I can list it now for 130, and you're screwed. You can't sell.
And now we're adding 99% of the time where you're going to be adding 6% sellers concessions onto that deal, right? Now they're responsible for commissions when they're selling the property.
Yeah, commissions, not concessions.
Oh, I said concessions, commissions, concessions,
commissions. Yeah, because, I mean, you got their 6% plus another, few thousand in closing.
It's tough.
It's tough.
It is tough, and for me, for us, there's so many. Again, there's 3,000 agents, right? There's 3,000 real estate agents in Rochester, New York. So, without saying too much, I will tell you that a large percentage of them are looking for that deal right now to pay the bills, right? That's looking for today. The agents that survive and end up at the top, I'm not going to send my buyers into a burning house, because this is a one and done deal.
Well,
right?
That's the example.
So
sending you into a burning house.
A burning house. It is.
It is.
So I want them, right? Yeah. I want them to call me back, because I talked them out of buying that house for $150. That now, look at it, just came on the market for $125,000, because the market has shifted. It's not even shifted, but maybe just stabilized.
Yeah, leveled.
This is why I would be a horrible real estate agent. Just for future reference, if I ever come asking for a job or something,
I would never hire you for future reference.
Okay, perfect. Because present Mark does not care about future Mark.
Right.
I'll be taking down the lights for Christmas, and I'm just bundling them up and just throwing them in a bag.
The Griswold
knot. I'm like, you know what? Yep. Future Mark will take care of this. That's fine. And I look, I'm like, what the hell was I doing with these? Everything's broken.
Yeah. No, that's a great example.
Just go buy new lights. It just costs me money.
Again, not to disparage peers, but I mean, there's a lot of people that don't think at that level, and they're just out to get a deal and not caring about what the future holds.
But what an awkward feeling, right? To get that call if you sent them into that burning house. If you get that call in 3 years and they say, "Hey, Jason, look, things didn't work out with me and Melissa, so we got to sell the house." That call is usually like, "Listen, you take deaths and divorce out. You can cut our income off by 30%. I mean, it's the reality, right? You could take 30% off of our income." So with that said, that's a call that should be like, what a great feeling, right? Because we do so many activities that require so much work to fight for business and fight for market share. Those calls should be it's That's wonderful. I just
But it
got
just, like,
called.
comes back,
Come and
yeah.
sell my house.
Yeah.
Right? Now, those agents that sent their clients into that burning house,
You know
when they
they're
get that
screwed.
phone call, their immediate thought is,
Oh crap!
oh my God,
How am I gonna sell this house?
I can't, like, number one, there's no way I can get paid on this. So this isn't even like a proposition of putting money in my pocket. I have to try to figure out who they can borrow money from to get out of this house.
Well, and a lot of the human nature too on that end is just kind of false perception. And okay, yeah, we can sell it for this. We'll list it for this, and then 6 months later, after it doesn't sell, everybody's pissed at you, and the realization comes to your clients that, oh yeah, we overpaid big time. And
Well, why would you
we're
let us
underwater.
overpay?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, guys, listen, it was a seller's market. Yeah, but I mean, this is your industry.
Yeah.
I mean, were you considering that when we made that offer of what this house might be worth when the market shifted back? You know what I mean? So that's, if you're going into it, right, and they and they're not going to listen. They say, listen, it doesn't matter. This is an emotional purchase for us. We hear you loud and clear. You're advising against it. We want to do it anyway. We have an abundance of money. By all means.
Get them on camera saying that.
You do
Sign
you.
here, please.
You do you, right?
Yeah.
So, but with that said, it's very, very difficult. And my most loyal clients, it's like the same conversations. Thank God early on I acknowledged that, you guys, listen, this isn't the right house for you. And I would, talk them out of certain properties.
Sure.
And I would bring, like, don't take my word for it. Here's the facts. Like,
Yeah.
take me out of it.
Right, yeah.
And, like, that's what they remember me the most by. It was like, and I'll run into them in social settings, right? It'll be at dinner or a happy hour or something. And be like, this is Anthony. This is the guy. He talked us out of 5 houses that we wanted. But it was amazing because it was the right one, and thank God we didn't buy any of those houses because we found the house we're in now, and we absolutely love it. And we were about to buy something. So you know what I mean? Like, those are raving fans. Those are clients for life, and those are people that, when they're talking to their friends or when there's a social media post, and guys, I don't suggest you do this, although I've been on the winning end of this, the worst thing you could ever do on Facebook is ask if anyone knows of a realtor. You can plan. You take the next day off of work. You won't be able to use your phone. You're going to be getting private messaged by 2,500 real estate agents.
Sure.
Friends are going to start tagging you into these posts. Half the time, I wish they. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say it. Half the time, I wish they wouldn't. Only because, like, listen. Thanks for tagging me in. I will reach out, but, like, it's going to be mayhem. And whoever, like, if that many agents know about it, I already know my competition out there. Someone's probably just going to do what they have to do to get it and take it on for nothing. We don't negotiate our commissions. We don't have to. We're in Rochester, New York. Look at our price points, right? There's areas around the country that are much higher than what we are, 3% on average, 3% and 3%. Again, that's not fixed. I can't legally say that that's what happens, but 99.9% of the listings out there, there's 6% commissions offered, right? So now you have areas where with an average sales price of $600,000, and you find out it's 8%, it's 4 and 4, right? So like 3% off one deal. We're in Rochester, New York. We have to sell a lot of houses to make what we have to make here.
Yeah.
So people have to consider that when they're thinking discount brokerage or limited service. Think about how much
It's just a matter of, if you're going that route, how much money are you leaving on the table by just having something that's not the full service that you deserve as a seller with a nice property. I mean, you said it before.
Yeah.
Tripping over quarters to pick up nickels.
Listen, that, and I've been on YouTube. I mean, how many botched breast augmentations in Mexico do I got to see before people realize that it's not about saving money? It's about getting you the most amount of money.
It's a great sales pitch.
What do you guys watch?
Botched breast augmentations.
Yeah.
The butt ones, too.
The butt ones, though. The butt ones are crazy when they
butt ones,
actually
people-
just flip.
It's always like, I went to Brazil, and they put epoxy in my ass.
No, that's actually
like
the end of a surfboard. I can see.
Or like cement.
Yeah,
Like, what are they
cement.
putting cement in their butt? Like,
Some quickcrete.
and like half of them end up dying from it.
Yeah, they get infections and.
Well, I guess if you're putting, construction grade cement in somebody's butt, you're gonna
no anesthesia. They literally just they dry ice your ass before they grow it.
That's awesome. I gotta get into this.
What kind of world are we in? Everyone wants bigger asses.
Well, I was watching the Kardashians. I think the season premiere was recently.
Yeah.
Their butts are no way real.
No
way,
shot,
right?
Not a shot.
It wasn't even human how their butts. And I know we're not supposed to body shame people.
And every year, Kim is like her waist is smaller,
but everything else is
yeah.
bigger up here.
Yeah, but her ass looks like the upper deck at Ralph Wilson Stadium. It's amazing. Literally.
So we're gonna do a Kardashian cast.
Yeah, next week it's gonna be
podcast just Kardashians.
All about the Kardashians.
Special guest.
Yeah, Kanye's coming in.
Nice.
Yeah, but back to this market, guys. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, there's still a lot of lingering buyers that never found a home, and I can tell which buyers have been in the April-May market this year, right?
Right.
Because they're like, listen, we've been on the market for 10 days. Why are you sending this offer in for $15,000 over with no inspection? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's because they lost on so many deals that now it's just about winning a deal more than it is about that house being the right fit for them.
Just going on a whim and trying to win, and versus thinking it through and making a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Couple stats. The market locally, they came out and said that it's down 5%. Overall transactions. That just speaks to what's been happening over the last couple of years, and that there's a lack of inventory, so there's a lack of deals. I mean, it builds into everything we've been talking about. So I mean, there's a lot of agents out there that they're used to a certain quality of life and used to doing this amount of volume, and now that's down. So I mean, people are doing weird things to try to get a deal. So,
yep, I'm watching.
But the pricing, like I said, the 10% increase this year, which is crazy for this market.
Yeah.
I think we're going to remain a strong market, partly because the interest rates are staying stable.
Yeah.
That's been a fear the last couple of years that the rates are going to go up and price people out. They've gone up a little bit, but we're still in the 4s, maybe high 4s.
It's based on the bond market, but it actually just dropped a little bit.
Right. So I mean, the Fed came out and said that we're not going to tinker with it for now. And this has literally been like a 2-year fear of the rates are going to skyrocket and what's going to happen.
Haven't yet.
They've gone up a little bit. I mean, listen, to be in the 3s where we were a few years ago is an all-time low.
Yeah.
So it's just, you're almost looking at it the wrong way of like, oh, I'm ticked off and can't buy a home because it's not in the 3s anymore. Well, listen.
The 3s were ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. I mean, if you bought then, good for you, and keep that rate as long as you can.
Yeah.
Or if you refinance then good for you. It was the right decision.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just, again, historically speaking, to not be at 8, 10, 12. I mean, our parents were, 18% is around the high.
Putting it on a credit card.
Well, and you think
Can you imagine?
Yeah. You think 18,
Right.
I would.
I mean, the prices were lower back then, but 18% interest on a $150,000 house? It's huge.
I don't know how.
I'm not
banks are
even going to try
sleeping
to
at
be.
night.
Yeah.
But
so, I mean,
which is funny because
to be under 5 creates a stability that
that
we're going to have for a while.
The 18%, like those days, that's when
How are the banks doing?
Well, that's when our economy was at its best, right?
Yeah.
That's why the rates were where they were. But now, because of what they've seen happen in the past, right? We learn, right? History teaches us.
Hopefully, yeah.
So, with that said, you do that today. There's, housing and like healthcare. It's really at the same level. You really want to disrupt the market condition. Now, I'm talking Wall Street market, right? You really want to disrupt that. You start messing with housing and healthcare, right? It's like the two those are two big.
Yeah.
Everyone needs a roof, right? And everyone needs how. And look at what's happened with healthcare. I mean, it's brutal, and that's affected.
I mean, the housing is just so tangible for the overall economy because, I mean, you have wood, materials, all this stuff that it takes to build a house is all driven by other markets, and then you have the people doing it, the labor force, et cetera, et cetera. There's just so much tied to it that the government knows that if they start playing around too much and try to, deepen the bank's pockets a little more and line their pockets through raising interest rates, that it's going to, could be a free-for-all for the overall global economy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people know what happened 10 years ago because of the housing market. That was our last, recession, crash, whatever you want to call it. People know what that was like because it's, there's always going to be ups and downs to the global economy. So if, again, history should be a lesson, hopefully they know not to mess with the housing market.
You know what amazes me is consumers will talk about like, ugh, God, the rates just went up. Now it's up to 4% or it's at 4.25%, and that same consumer is paying 21% interest on a credit card with $25,000 on it, and it's like,
people don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, I don't know if looking at it in perspective is the right way to think about it, but it's just, I mean, okay, you don't have a historically low rate, you're normal.
Yeah.
Would you rather have equity or would you rather rent for nothing in the long run?
And the rentals again, I mean, you're signing the rent. They're smart. The property management companies, they're not doing month to month, right?
Right.
So these buyers are stuck. Well, okay, if we don't find something in the next 2 weeks, we have to sign a new lease. And if we do a month to month, they want to charge us $200 more.
Right. Well, that and the rental market in itself is increasing too.
Oh my God, it's
insanity. You're always. I'd be hard pressed to find an option or a neighborhood or a market where that you could rent for less than what it would cost to own that same home. So why would you?
Owning would be way less per month.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, so
and you have equity, and
sure,
it's an asset.
It's like a little bank account almost, so if you end up selling it,
sure,
it is. It's
a savings account.
Yeah, it's a means of building certain levels of wealth. I mean, you have the equity in your home. That's something to fall back on if you need to, or when you do sell. Yeah, hopefully you've made the right play overall, and you're getting a check versus breaking even or cutting a check.
And tax deductions, right?
Yeah,
we only have to think about it once a year, but
And you can paint the walls.
Yeah,
right?
You can paint the walls.
That benefit, right?
Yep.
Who do we got next week? We have
got Derek Schluter's coming in. Anthony's going to be out. Actually, I'll be out, but we're going to be coming out Friday next week instead of Thursday. And Derek Schluter on our team is going to join us, and I'm not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll figure it out.
Sweet. Check it out, AnthonyButerraTeam.com, and you can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher and YouTube, all that good stuff. All right, we'll see you next time.
Thanks guys.
Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Show. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. If you're looking to sell or buy, talk to the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. Visit AnthonyButerraTeam.com.